Your life is every level of a whistleblower. Level 7, the insider. You're 44 years old, and you've spent 19 years climbing inside a company that makes a product you haven't thought critically about in over a decade. You're a senior vice president of regulatory compliance at a pharmaceutical company. Your base salary is $340,000. Your bonus last year was $180,000. Your stock options, if the company hits its targets, are worth another $600,000 over the next 4 years. You live in a 4-bedroom colonial in a suburb where the lawns are treated by men who arrive in white trucks every Tuesday. Your wife teaches 2nd grade because she wants to, not because she has to. Your 2 kids are 12 and 9. They have orthodontists and piano teachers and summer camps that cost more than your first car. You are good at your job. Your job is to make sure the company doesn't break the rules in ways that can be proven. That last part is important. There's a difference between not breaking rules and not being caught breaking them, and the difference is where your paycheck lives. You run a team of 14 people. You review clinical trial documentation, FDA submissions, manufacturing protocols. You sit in meetings where lawyers and scientists and executives debate what language to use in a study report. You're the person who says, we can describe the adverse event rate this way instead of that way. Both are technically accurate. One of them sells more product. You've been doing this for so long that the ethical calculations happen in the background, like breathing. You don't notice you're doing it. That's the first thing they take from you, long before you lose anything else. They take the part of you that can still notice. You're happy. That's the part nobody talks about later. Before anything falls apart, you are genuinely, unremarkably happy. You coach your son's soccer team on Saturdays. You have a wife who still laughs at your jokes. You have friends from college who you see twice a year at a lake house one of them bought. You have a 401k and a financial advisor and a plan to retire at 62 and maybe buy a sailboat. None of this feels like complicity. It feels like a life. Level 6, the moment. A junior researcher, 28 years old, sends you an email at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday in October. The subject line says, "Urgent, need your guidance." Attached are 340 pages of clinical trial data on a drug the company is about to submit for expanded FDA approval. The drug treats a common condition. It's already on the market for one use. The new application would approve it for a second, much larger patient population. The revenue projections are $2.4 billion annually. You read the email. You opened the attachment. You read until 4 a.m. The pattern in the data is not subtle once you know how to look for it. 3 patient deaths during the trial were classified as unrelated to the medication. You've read the classification logic. You've written classification logic like it yourself. The justifications are thin. Stretched. A cardiac event in a 61-year-old was attributed to pre-existing hypertension. A stroke in a 58-year-old was attributed to undiagnosed diabetes. A liver failure in a 44-year-old was attributed to occasional alcohol use. None of these people would have died that week without the drug. The data says so clearly if you know how to read it, and you know how to read it. The researcher is asking you what to do. She's asking because you are the person in the building whose job it is to know what to do. You stare at the email for a long time. You already know what the right answer is. You also already know what the right answer will cost. Those two knowings exist in the same mind at the same time, and for the next 9 days, you will live inside the narrow space between them. You don't sleep well that week. Your wife asks if something's wrong. You say it's just work stress. That's the first lie, and it's small, and it's the one that makes every lie that comes after it possible. You eat dinner with your family. You watch your daughter do her homework at the kitchen table. You think about what your life will look like if you do nothing. You think about what your life will look like if you do something. The second picture is much less clear. That's part of how the system works. Complicity has a detailed map. Integrity has a rumor of a map. You meet with the head of the clinical trials division. You raise your concerns carefully, professionally, in the language of risk management. He listens. He nods. He tells you the classifications were reviewed by 3 separate medical officers. He tells you the FDA will do their own analysis. He tells you this is why the system works. He tells you to focus on the parts of the submission that are within your scope. He is not threatening you. He's reminding you of a boundary you've respected for 19 years. The boundary that says some problems belong to other people. You leave the meeting. You walk back to your office. You close the door. You sit at your desk. And you realize, somewhere between the meeting and the chair, that you've already made the decision. Not the decision you think you're going to make. The other one. The real one. Level 5, the filing. You spend 11 weeks building the case. You work at night, after the kids are asleep. You copy documents to a personal USB drive that you keep in a locked drawer in your home office. You meet with a lawyer who specializes in federal whistleblower cases. She tells you the protections exist on paper. She tells you that on paper is different from in practice. She asks if you have savings. You say yes. She asks how much. You tell her. She makes a face that is either pity or professionalism. It doesn't matter which. You tell her to file. The filing goes to the FDA and to the Department of Justice under the False Claims Act. Your name is confidential, theoretically. Your lawyer says the confidentiality will hold for 3 to 6 months, maybe longer, depending on how the investigation proceeds. She says it almost never holds forever. She says you should prepare your family. You ask what that means. She says it means tell your wife now. You tell your wife that night. You sit her down in the kitchen after the kids go to bed. You tell her what you found. You tell her what you did. You watch her face move through confusion, then concern, then fear, then something that is not anger exactly but a related shape. She asks why you didn't talk to her before filing. You say because you knew she would try to stop you. She says, of course I would have tried to stop you. We have children. You nod. You don't say anything else because there is nothing to say. She agreed to marry a man who made careful decisions. You just made the least careful decision of your life, and you made it without her. She doesn't leave. Not then. But something in the room changes that night, and it will not change back. There's a version of your marriage that existed before that conversation, and a version that exists after, and the second version is running on a shorter battery. You'll spend the next 2 years not knowing exactly when it's going to die. Level 4, the exposure. The investigation takes 9 months. In the 10th month, someone inside the company figures out it was you. You never learn how. Maybe it was the USB drive. Maybe it was a question you asked at the wrong meeting. Maybe it was nothing specific, just the narrowing of logical possibilities. The company has lawyers whose entire job is to identify the source of leaks. They are good at their job. They are paid to be good at it. You're called into the office of the general counsel on a Tuesday morning. He tells you, calmly, that your employment is terminated effective immediately. He tells you that you have 20 minutes to clear your desk under supervision. He tells you the non-disclosure agreement you signed when you were hired 19 years ago is still enforceable, and the company will pursue any violations aggressively. He uses the word aggressively in a way that is legally neutral but interpersonally precise. He doesn't mention the whistleblower filing. He doesn't have to. You both know what this is. You pack a box. Your assistant, who has worked for you for 7 years, cannot look at you. A security guard walks you to the elevator. On the way down, you pass 3 people who pretend not to see you. You've been in this building more hours than you've been in your own house. You know the names of the janitors. You know which hallways smell like the cafeteria at lunch and which ones don't. None of that matters anymore. The building has closed around you like a wound healing over a splinter. You are the splinter. You drive home. You sit in your driveway for 40 minutes before going inside. You're not crying. You're calculating. You're thinking about severance, which you won't get. You're thinking about stock options, which have already been canceled. You're thinking about the mortgage, which is $6,800 a month. You're thinking about the kids' school, which is private, and costs $32,000 a year per child. You're thinking about your wife, who is going to ask what happened, and you're going to have to tell her, and she's going to do the same math you just did, and arrive at the same number, and the number is not good. The whistleblower lawsuit offers you a percentage of whatever the government recovers. If the case is successful, and if the recovery is large, your share could be meaningful. Your lawyer says, optimistically, 3 to 5 years until resolution. Pessimistically, 7 to 10. You have maybe 14 months of savings. Level 3, the isolation. The case stays sealed for another 8 months. During that time, you can't work in your industry. No pharmaceutical company will hire you. Word travels in this business. It doesn't need to travel far. There are maybe 200 people in the country who do what you used to do, and 180 of them have heard your name by Christmas. You apply for other jobs. Strategic consulting, regulatory affairs at smaller firms, teaching positions at universities. The interviews go well until the background check. Then they don't go anywhere. Nobody says no because of the lawsuit. They say no because another candidate was a better fit, because the role was filled internally, because priorities shifted. You learn to recognize the rejection that isn't really a rejection, it's a distance. People handle you like radioactive material. Not angry, not cruel, just careful. Nobody wants what you have to stick to them. Your friends start to disappear in a way that's hard to describe because it's not dramatic. The texts come less often. The invitations dry up. The couples you used to have dinner with every month become couples you see twice a year, then once, then not at all. Nobody announces a break. The social fabric just loosens around you until you're not inside it anymore. One of your closest friends from college, a man whose wedding you were best man at, doesn't return your calls for 3 months. When he finally does, he apologizes, but he doesn't explain, and you don't ask, because you already know. His wife works in pharma. They have a life to protect. You understand. You would have done the same thing 2 years ago. You understand, and understanding makes it worse, not better. Your oldest friend tells you, over a beer you can no longer afford to order a second of, that he admires what you did. He says this with complete sincerity. Then he goes back to his job and his wife and his plans for the future, and you go back to the apartment you moved into 3 months ago because you sold the house. Admiration is not a currency. You cannot pay rent with it. You cannot buy groceries with it. It's a nice thing that someone can say while not helping you. Most people, you're learning, are capable of exactly this much. Level 2, the dissolution. Your wife files for separation 18 months after you filed the complaint. She doesn't say it's because of the lawsuit. She says she needs space. She says things have been hard for a long time. She says she loves you, but she doesn't recognize what your life has become, and she doesn't want it to be her life anymore. All of this is true. None of this is the whole truth. The whole truth is that you traded her for a principal, and you didn't ask her if she wanted to be traded, and she's allowed to leave over that. You knew this was a possible ending when you made the decision. You made it anyway. That's not her fault. She didn't vote. The kids take it differently. Your daughter, now 11, blames you. She doesn't know why, exactly. She just knows that her life used to be one thing and now it's another thing, and the causality in her mind points at you because you're the change. She's right, in a way that she's too young to articulate and you're too broken to explain. Your son, 14, doesn't blame anyone. He just gets quiet. He stops talking to you about things that matter. He talks to you about homework, about baseball, about superficial things. The real conversations happen with his mother now. You've been demoted to a secondary parent by events you chose. You move into a one-bedroom apartment in a part of town you used to drive through without noticing. The building is old. The walls are thin. You can hear your neighbor's television through the bedroom wall. Some nights it helps. Some nights it's the only human sound in your apartment. You eat food you cook yourself because restaurants are for other people. You drive a car that is 7 years old and makes a noise you've been ignoring for 4 months because fixing it costs money you don't have. You have $34,000 left in savings. The lawsuit is still pending. Your lawyer is optimistic. Optimistic is a word that has stopped meaning anything to you. Optimism is for people who can still afford to be surprised by outcomes. You are in the phase of the process where you take each day as an input and produce nothing but more waiting. Level 1, the verdict. The case settles in year 4. The company admits no wrongdoing. They pay $1.2 billion. The media covers it for 2 days. A spokesman reads a statement about the company's continued commitment to patient safety. 2 executives retire with full pensions. The drug remains on the market. The FDA adds a warning to the label. Nothing about the label change addresses the specific issue you raised. The warning is generic. It covers the company legally without admitting what actually happened. Your share of the settlement, after legal fees and taxes, is $63 million. You should feel something. You've waited 4 years to feel something. You sit in your lawyer's office when she tells you the number, and she's smiling, and she's congratulating you, and you nod, and you thank her, and you go home and sit on the couch in your one-bedroom apartment and wait for the feeling to arrive. It doesn't. Not that day. Not the next. Not ever, not in the form you expected. You're rich now. You could buy the house back. You don't. Your wife has remarried, to an accountant who coaches your son's baseball team. Your daughter is a junior in high school and applying to colleges. She texts you on your birthday. She writes "Happy birthday, Dad." No punctuation. You respond with a heart emoji. This is the depth of your relationship now. You could spend $63 million on her and it would not buy back the thing that was lost in the years when you were a stranger with a lawsuit instead of a father with a weekend. You give most of the money away. Not because you're noble. Because you don't know what else to do with it. You fund a legal aid organization for other whistleblowers. You donate to a medical ethics program at a university. You send anonymous checks to the families of the 3 people who died in the trial. None of them ever learn where the money came from. One of them, the widow of the 44-year-old, writes a letter to the foundation that distributed the funds. The letter says thank you, but the money doesn't bring him back. You read the letter in your lawyer's office. You fold it carefully and put it in your pocket. You carry it with you for a year. You meet a young woman at a regulatory conference where you've been invited to speak. She's 26, a compliance analyst at a medical device company. She pulls you aside after your talk. She tells you she's seen something at her company. She wants to know what to do. She wants to know if it's worth it. You look at her for a long time. You think about your wife, who is happy now, with the accountant. You think about your daughter, who is polite with you the way she is polite with the orthodontist. You think about your son, who is 18 and going to study engineering at a state school he chose partly because it's 1,400 miles from you. You think about the men in the general counsel's office, who still has his job, and the executives who retired with pensions, and the drug which is still on the market, and the label which says nothing that matters. You could tell her it's worth it. That's the inspirational version. The version they make movies about. Or you could tell her the truth. That doing the right thing is a transaction, and the system has already calculated the price, and the price is everything you love, and the system pays it willingly because the system is not the one paying. You are. You and the people you brought with you into the trade without asking them. You tell her to get a good lawyer. You tell her to talk to her family first. You tell her that the law will protect her on paper, and that paper is different from people. You tell her that whatever she thinks it's going to cost, it will cost more. You tell her that she will save lives, probably, and she will not get to watch them be saved, and she will not get thanked by the people she saves because they will not know she saved them. She thanks you. She walks away to think about it. You watch her go and you hope, for her sake, that she decides not to do it. And you hope, for the sake of whoever the drug or the device or the thing would hurt, that she does it anyway. The system doesn't need heroes. It needs people who are willing to be destroyed in its place so that it can continue, slightly wounded, to do what it was already going to do.